Hello and welcome to Reacting to Negative Comments. This week I decided that we would do something a little different for today's video. In a way, I suppose the title was a little misleading, but it is the best I could come up with. Unlike most other channels here on YouTube, we really don't have a lot of flat-out negative comments. I attribute this to us having such an awesome and accepting community, for which I must thank you all. Even those rare negative comments are but a momentary flash in the pan amongst all the great comments you leave me. Even as such, I tend not to dwell on negativity, nor would I want to make a video rewarding it. However, for today's topic, I wanted to address some issues that would seem like a bad thing, but I view it as constructive criticism. Many of the following will be common knowledge for my longtime viewers, but for the new members joining us, it might not be. Starting off, I used to see comments frequently saying that the way I end each video was annoying to some. I really don't see this mentioned a lot anymore, but I still felt it was worth addressing. For those new to the channel, I have utilized the phrase, "With that, be safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Later," for years. In fact, I have stated that pretty much at the end of each one of my videos since I first started making content. The only variation to this was for a short period of time at the beginning when I didn't narrate videos. Now, while this can be seen as simply a catchphrase, it actually holds a lot of meaning to me. Growing up, every time my brother or I would leave the house, my dad would make a point to tell us to be safe and that he loved us. This was stated even if we were simply going a short distance away, or basically just leaving the house. While it was annoying to constantly hear as a kid, we quickly realized it was said just in case something bad happened, and those would be the last words said. When it comes to the channel, I wish all my viewers the best and hope that it is something positive to hear, especially with such craziness and uncertainty going on in the world. Utilizing those words also honors my father each and every time I say it. Now, when it comes to later, this is how my brother has always said it when we are together. For those curious, yes, we both know and say it correctly as later in normal life, but the version you hear each week is different. I don't know when it started, probably when we became adults and started our separate lives, but when my brother and I talk, we never end the conversation with goodbye. Goodbye is too final, but later or later means we will see or talk to each other again. While I can't say when or how it started, I do know it wasn't something talked about, it was simply understood. So, for my viewers, it is not me saying goodbye, but more in line with, I'll be talking to you again soon. My dad's phrase and my brother's just fit together so perfectly that I knew I had to use it. A year or two ago, I saw a few comments requesting I remove that part, and even though I didn't really want to, I decided to try an experiment. Without making notice of it, I began randomly removing it from each video. It resulted in a really shocking development. The few who requested its removal applauded me, but a huge number of the audience questioned where it went and even went as far as saying it just felt like something was missing from the video. I even saw some literally typing the phrase out in the comments just for added closure. It was then that I realized I was wrong to remove it and started including it again. Now I know that, without a doubt, until a day comes that I can no longer make videos, I will always have that at the end of each of my uploads. The next one has always perplexed me a little bit. Fairly often, I will see comments questioning the stories I present, or even condemn me for some of the details. While I am always for people making up their own minds on each subject, many of these comments tread along the lines that those stories are mine. This way of thinking really blows my mind, and to be honest, I wish I had the creativity to come up with all the encounters I present. If that were the case, I think I would be involved in another profession, like writing books. Many of my viewers have given me the title of Cryptid Archiver, and in a sense, that is the best way to look at my content. I find the reports about a certain topic and compile them in an informative video. Many of these sightings can be so obscure that I feel they could be lost to time at any moment. So, one of my goals with this channel is to, in a sense, attempt to preserve these stories from being lost or forgotten. I will admit that there are some reports that, when looked into, don't match up with locations or timelines. When this happens, I do automatically throw them out, since it is obvious that they're completely made up. However, at no point would I ever simply create a story for the sake of padding up the runtime of my videos. This exact thing can be seen with a few of the Cryptid by State videos. To this day, Maryland sticks in my mind due to how limited the stories were. If I was going to make up stories, that would have been the video, where it could have come in handy. Not to mention, I would have quote-unquote found some Bigfoot sightings on Hawaii just to be able to say every state has a Sasquatch. Honestly, I get it. Are some of the encounters talked about hard to believe? Without a doubt. Yet, I don't make them up, and someone out there really has reported seeing such an unbelievable sight. Moving on, let's hit the 3 big ones that pop up in relation to the Cryptid by State or Cryptid by Region series. Starting with the big one, I have seen many issues with the inclusion of the history section or flag portion. I have always included this since the inception of the series. Granted, I didn't have much in the first 3 or 4 videos, but it was still there to some degree. While I can understand the frustration, I still keep that part to around 3 minutes of a 17 or longer minute video. Yes, it typically ends around the 4-minute mark, but a couple minutes of that include the intro. For me, I have kept it as part of the video so we have an understanding of each location. Believe it or not, but you can figure out a lot of what cryptids will be found just by knowing the history. Not only this, but I wanted the series to be about the state, and not just the cryptids. For instance, when making the Ohio video, if I simply said we would be visiting Ohio and went to the cryptid stories, what part of that would say it was about the state, outside of saying the name? As it stands, we briefly learn how the area came to be, what its flag looks like along with meaning, as well as the cryptids. By the end of it is a complete package, and we leave it knowing that we just visited an area. To me, it is the difference between simply driving through a state and saying that you've been there, or staying in that state. To be honest, we are 36 videos in to a 50-state series. It wouldn't make sense to change it now. The best I can say is that when this is over, I will be making a UFO by state or haunting by state, and since I already did the history and flag in the previous one, I don't see much need to include it again. I'll also note that while some dislike that part, a huge number like it and appreciate it. Keeping with this series, I see some taking issue with pronunciations of locations. This is a little troubling to me, since I do devote a good portion of time to each video creation to finding correct ways of saying names. Each video is meant to honor the location or people, and so I try very hard to get the words right. Trust me, I made an error in one of my earliest videos when I called the Thames River the Thames. I will never forget that ignorance. Each week I do my research, compile it together into a concise script, and then, before even hitting record, I spend hours finding town and people names. Anyone who is a Patreon member can probably attest to this, since I upload the script used each week. In those documents, they can see where I put the pronunciations in parentheses before each word. The problem is that some of the words are said differently by different people, or examples of it were not able to be found. What really confuses me is when I see someone say, "I have lived in a location all my life and appreciate that you got all the pronunciations spot on." Then in the same video I see, "I have lived in a location all my life and you got everything wrong." So it appears sometimes I can't win no matter how hard I try. The point is that I try to get this accurate, but can still mess up from time to time, or simply can't find a proper way to say it. I will say that if the widely popular show Supernatural can get away with saying,
if I'm right, this witch is summoning a demon, and not just any demon. Samhain.
Rather than Samhain, then there isn't much to talk about here. The last one for the Cryptid by State or region is that I missed a particular creature. This is a justified one, since I was a little more free and loose when the series started. The Thunderbirds in Illinois comes to mind. Fairly quickly, I started including just about every creature I could find in the honorable mentions section. At first, I didn't intend for the videos to be a complete list, but then decided it should be, or at least as close to one as possible. Anymore, the only ones that I don't include are completely fake ones, urban legends, or stories that were later explained. Now, with a lot of locations, there are locally known cryptids that aren't frequently spread around outside of the area. I do try to find these as well, but there are limits to information that is known. Louisiana was a huge example of this. While on the surface, there doesn't seem to be a lot of cryptids there, but once you find the local stories, more and more emerge. Saving the big one for last. A while ago, I saw someone complaining about my style of videos, and even though I have relatively thick skin, it set me off a bit. In their words, they said they were tired of low effort, easy to make Windows Movie Maker slideshow videos. Let's break this comment down. First off, to be honest, I would love to provide video clips in my uploads, but when dealing with the unknown, this isn't too commonplace. If we had all kinds of valid videos about Bigfoot, Mothman, Nessie, etc., then they really wouldn't be cryptids anymore. The best I can offer is representations of what I'm talking about. This is why, dare I say, legitimate channels that, much like myself, don't sensationalize material, typically have one static image through the whole thing, or one or two hand-drawn ones like Bob Gimlin does. Most content creators in this genre don't have the budget to make CGI videos like the History Channel does. So, sadly, this relegates us to versions of content like mine or the ones mentioned. Secondly, I would never put someone down for using whatever software they had or could afford to start making content. Not everyone can come up with the hundreds of dollars for Adobe Premiere Pro. In the beginning, I used Movie Maker, but for the past 5 or 6 years, I have the paid version of Wondershare Filmora, which is a decent editor for the budget-minded. For any creator, as long as the message is clear, the software used isn't important, especially starting out. Now, all this doesn't matter, and really doesn't bother me that much, but the low effort part did. What this commenter doesn't realize is that when watching a 17-minute video, it doesn't take 17 minutes to make, no matter what type of content it is. Any given video of mine takes anywhere from 12 to 20 hours or more of time to complete, depending on how involved the research is. Most of my audience knows that I don't just grab things from the internet each week. I utilize the internet some, but I go to the library, read through books, and old articles. That takes time. A lot of time. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining about this at all. Nobody is forcing me to keep making videos. I enjoy what I do, and love being able to present my findings to everyone. Most of you all know this, and appreciate what I make, so I feel bad to have had to mention this comment at all. Although I feel a lot of people, not meaning the cryptid family, do seem to have a disconnect when it comes to understanding that a lot of time, hours upon hours, and even days, go into just a short video. So, that was all the frequent criticisms I've come across, excluding those who have an issue with my voice. Sorry, I can't do anything to change that, nor would I. The only other thing that I would like to add is something that has been bothering me. Recently, I have taken part in a few interviews with other channels, and this is probably the first time you've been hearing about it. Last year, I did one for the channel Night Terrors, and last month I did one for Controversial Science. The reason I never mentioned it is over being burned in the past. Without mentioning names, many years ago I did an interview with a channel, and everything seemed great. I checked everything out, and things appeared to be on the up and up. Not long after the recording, that channel started regularly getting to topics that I wasn't wanting to be part of, or even comfortable with. So I had to distance myself from being involved with them. Since that time, every offer sort of scares me that the same thing will happen again. I have tried very hard to gain a good reputation, since my errors of the out-of-place artifacts videos of the past. So we are clear, viewership didn't matter to me, since I am all for helping out others in our community. In fact, Night Terrors actually has almost double the subscribers I do. Now, I will say that both Night Terrors and Controversial Science are awesome people, and I enjoyed my time with them. In fact, as long as the offer still stands, Controversial Science wanted me to be a reoccurring guest panelist every month or so. In saying this, I apologize to you all for keeping things like this close to my chest, and I apologize to these channels for not giving them the recognition they deserve. I intend to do better with this in the future, but I hope you understand my thought process as to why I was apprehensive. If you haven't yet done so, do please consider subscribing to my channel for content involving the paranormal, but we mostly focus on cryptids here. Also, it would be greatly appreciated if you could share my videos with someone you know who may enjoy this type of genre. With that, be safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Later!